friends, back again. Another episode of Seeking Our Spirit. Got a great episode for you today. One of my best buddies, my Brah, Alejandro Ponzio. Really interesting and good conversation, unique conversation, so we'll look forward to that. And as always, if you want to be on the show, shoot me an email at seekingourspirit@gmail. seekingourspirit@gmail. Look forward to hearing from you and enjoy. You ready to go?
I'm all yours, yes.
All right, man. Okay, well, here we go.
Cheers,
Salud.
salud.
Salud, my brother.
Salud.
So, Alejandro Ponzio, do you want to start by just saying a little bit about yourself first?
Sure, yeah. I think first of all, it's kind of, I'm very intrigued to be here because, I'm not a particular spiritual person or a, religious person, and I don't usually listen to podcasts, so I think it's funny that I'm participating on that podcast that will discuss spirituality.
Yeah.
But anyways, I'm originally from Argentina. You and I have been
Cordoba.
friends for a long time. Cordoba, Argentina. My wife is from Buenos Aires. We moved to the States in 2003. I came to do my master's degree, and after I finished that in California, we moved to Knoxville in 2004, and I've been living here ever since. I love it. Love it. I'm married. I have 2 kids.
And professionally?
Professionally, I work for a bank. I've been in the finance sector. I've been doing a lot of consumer finance for the past almost 20 years. I don't know how deep we want to go into that, but it's...
No, that's great. I think, and I should have started by saying, just a pleasure to have, as we say, my Brah, like people, someone who I consider one of my best friends and a person I respect and admire and love. So I appreciate you doing this with me. It's separate, but even just in the little bit of your story, I was even thinking on the way over here, like, we could. It's not the topic of the podcast, but your all story is so great. Like, you could do just a complete episode on just your story, because I think I've said this to you before, but you guys have like pretty nice, like the stereotypical like American dream.
Yeah.
Like when people say the American, you know what I mean?
100%.
Like coming from somewhere else, being, working your way, really
yes.
going through the grit and doing everything, and then and really being successable. Like, so you guys have this beautiful story. But anyway, that's aside. But
we'll do a separate podcast.
Yeah, that'll have to be a different one. And so we spoke about this also ahead of time a little bit, but just sort of laying the groundwork. Like, we will have to. Well, so the podcast, as people know, is about what do people mean when they say spirituality?
Yes.
Because we all that's a very vague word, and we all mean something different, and people experience that in different ways. And part of my struggle with this podcast has been accessing people, because of what I do, accessing people who aren't churched, quote unquote, right?
Yeah.
Like, it's all my people have been people, and we live in East Tennessee, so it's like that's the culture. So I've been trying to find people who I want to talk to, the people who are like spiritual but not religious, right? That's a very popular thing to say now, spiritual but not religious. Well, I want to talk to those people. It's hard, so I have a hard time accessing those people. What's hilarious is you're like completely on the other side of that because I don't want to put words in your mouth, but I think you would most commonly say, and we'll dig into that a little bit, you most commonly would say, not only are you not religious but spiritual, but you're neither. Like, you would probably say, I'm not spiritual.
Yes.
Talking to people, you probably would say that.
Yeah.
So anyway, so we'll get into that. But so let's start with, as I do with everybody, like what would someone lay out as their like spiritual timeline? So take me back to childhood, growing up.
Yes.
I'm assuming, which I mean, I think I know this, but growing up in Latin America, growing up Catholic?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Roman Catholic, Argentina, I think it's about probably 92, 93% Roman Catholic.
Right.
So the first, the first pope that is not from Europe is from Argentina.
Right.
So obviously the Catholic Church in Argentina is a big deal. My entire family is Roman Catholic. I was raised, I was baptized, I did my communion, my confirmation, the whole thing. Yeah. Went to Catholic school, went to a Catholic university. And but I guess somewhere along the lines, I didn't feel that connection with these
This other thing.
Yes,
Yeah.
like it felt like, okay. I mean, I know that I'm telling me that I should believe in this, but I just it felt like I was faking it.
Yeah. So tell me more about. Okay. So were your parents like cultural Catholic, or are they people of faith? Would you say are they spiritual people?
Yeah, I think they are. They're not like my mom goes to church regularly. I think my sisters, do as well. So I think my dad, a lot of Catholics, especially I wouldn't say just in Argentina in general. I don't know about what Catholics don't go to church that much, but I guess the church is there if you ever need it. If you want to go, it's always there. But it's not like here in the South. It's just striking how much of everybody's lives revolve around their church, right? So, and it's not like that over there. It's almost completely the opposite. But I would say yes. My family wasn't the most, kind of like obsessive religious, but they are very religious.
But they were faithful.
Yes, definitely.
So was that was so like were things like God and spirituality and prayer and faith, all those things, were they like conversations in the household, or was it just sort of like this is what we do?
Kind of like in between. It wasn't that we had a house where religion was discussed a lot, but it was kind of there. We had there was a very close family friend who was a Catholic priest, and actually my sister's godfather. So there's always been a very close relation there, but it wasn't like most Roman Catholics are not pushy about religion, so it's there. But
So okay, so tell me. So you sort of already referenced like at some point in your life. There was a disconnect from that, and I've heard you just in our friendship, use words like rational or things like that. What can you point to? Anything in your childhood, anything in your adolescence, teenage years, like did you have any moments now, like put aside like the rational sort of thinking, did you have moments that you would have before sort of that time period in your life would have called spiritual? Like did you ever as a child have an experience of an unexplainable experience, or experience of other, or of creator, or of something just deeper, that you couldn't explain? Or
well, yes and no, I guess. I mean, I remember one time I was young and we were traveling, in the northern part of Argentina, and I don't know why this stayed with me, but I mean, we went to Salta, and I, for some reason, I mean, when we walk into that...
Salta's a town.
Salta is, yes, a town in northern Argentina, and when we walk into that cathedral, it kind of blew my mind, but I don't know if it was a spiritual experience or it was just the awe of how beautiful that building was or something, but it's something that stayed with me, forever, so I don't know if that would qualify as kind of like a spiritual experience, but it's something that for some reason I remember almost nothing from that trip except for that one thing.
I actually think that that's a great definition. that can be used to like spiritual. It's like, what are unexplainable, awe-inspiring moments in our lives, right? Yes. And we can rationalize those however we want.
100%.
But it's still, it's there, and you can feel it. You can still, and what is that, right? I don't know.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay. So that's a good, so any other things like that that stick out or that?
Not as a child, but to me, I would say, and I don't know if this is kind of like, but I think that those moments of being in awe and wonderment and, just thankful for life in general. I would say just, like getting married or having, when I was there with the birth of each of my children. And, I'm a very kind of, I'm not crying. I don't cry usually, but those were moments where,
emotional moments.
Definitely, yeah.
Sure.
And then, like I told you last year when I went to say goodbye to my dad.
Yeah.
That was
a deep moment. Yeah.
Very deep, yes. I think that I can kind of reach a depth within myself that I didn't even know that I had,
Yeah.
So it was kind of weird in that sense.
Yeah.
But it was beautiful too, because even something as sad as embracing my dad, knowing that I was never going to see him again, it was sad, but it just brought me so much peace, to process and to accept what ended up happening a week after.
Yeah.
So,
Well, and it, I mean, not to derail that, but it's like there's something about those moments. We do so much in life. Our egos do so much in life of like putting on masks and putting up facades.
Yes.
And so it's like those moments, though painful and deeply sad and everything, are so real.
Exactly.
And full of love and full of real emotion of life that it's, it's different. Yeah.
Yeah, and that's one thing I think if that you know me and that is one area that I always try to do is like I always try to keep it real. I don't feel the need to position or like you and I have a lot of discussions about the true spiritual side of believing and going to church, and then the networking side of that, and it's just like
all the
all that stuff that drives me crazy because so I do try to always do things where I keep it real, but even in those situations and when I'm constantly checking myself to be real and true to myself, there have been those experiences that took my emotions to a level that I just didn't even know that I had. And it's just, I think it's just very powerful experience. I mean, the death of a parent or the birth of a child. I mean, they're so transformational moments in anybody's life. I mean, any person will probably be able to cite those moments as something that was so transformational that it's just, I don't know. I guess if you don't get to feel something powerful at those moments, then you probably are completely devoid of emotion or spirituality. I don't know. But.
Well, I don't know. It's interesting. I mean, there's several interesting things there in that, like, one, again, I think some people would say being truly authentic to self and being your truly authentic self to others and being fully present is also probably another really good operative definition for spiritual.
Exactly.
I think many would say that. And then it's also interesting you're saying that those moments, so they sort of are tied together. I don't know. Depending on how present folks are able to be honest with themselves, honest with the world, they may or may not be emotionally present in those moments. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I would actually say that's a pretty common thing. Obviously, I deal with a lot of death, and I see lots of folks deal with death very differently and birth very differently.
Yes.
So it's
Yeah, and for me, it's like we discussed. I think maybe I am spiritual after all, but it's just not in what most people will consider spirituality in the conventional sense of the word.
Yeah.
I think that you and I have had a lot of conversations about religion and beliefs, and even though I don't believe in a lot of the same things that you do, when we really strip it down to core values and
Right.
and a true belief system on how someone should live their life, how someone should be there for others, how someone should love and be honest and whatnot. I think that's probably what has made our friendship so strong, is because at the end of the day, we might believe in some things in a different way, but we still believe in the same.
Yeah. No. Yeah.
So
I agree. And that's sort of the goal of this whole project is like,
yeah.
I actually love that term, spiritual but not religious, because I hear it as people trying to reject what the Western American church has been portrayed as in media.
Yeah.
Right. And the stereotype that people have of it, and is trying to reject that and trying to get back to like the heart,
Yeah.
And so I sort of see that being the same thing that we're talking about.
Yeah, so to me, I think I look at spirituality more in terms of a pursuit of happiness and honesty, and kind of like being true to myself and trying to find out happiness in that pursuit of still being true to myself, right? And being true to the people that I love, and I don't necessarily believe in kind of like other things like an afterlife, but I do believe that there's a spirituality component to loving other people,
Sure.
to genuinely giving your best to others and making an impact on other people's life through how you treated them, how you were there for them, and how you loved them, and I don't think that there's probably like religious concepts like eternal life and stuff like that, but I do believe that if you live your life well, then your person carries on even after you're gone, because you have touched other people that will remember and will hopefully cherish having met you, and the fact that you have made an impact in their life. So I think that's kind of like my goal, as far as spirituality, is that pursuit of, I guess, doing good and kind of loving well and being there for other people that I care about.
I think it's interesting, like you've used happiness a couple times, which I agree with, but it's interesting because I almost think like a better word would be like wholeness. Because I think some people can take happiness, which I'm not taking, when you say that, I'm not taking it this way, but some people can take, it's about me exploring what happiness in my life, and that can be very much egocentric, very much about me, which actually doesn't make us fully happy, right? There's a component to happiness that is about, like, as you say, loving others, giving to others, being selfless, right? So I don't know, I'm just responding to one thing,
that's 100% true, because I guess I mean that happiness in a more of an unselfish way, because one of the things that make me the happiest is to make the people that I love happy. So like to do things for others that I know will make them happy is what makes me happy. You know, it might be selfish because it sounds, but
no, but that,
but yes, that's the thing. It's like I think, like you said, it's a sense of maybe wholeness because of that. Like it's it's like I want to be happy, but I also don't want to be happy at any price. I mean, it's like I want that happiness to generally come from a place where the people that I love are happy as well. So it's,
and I think when religion is done well, that's one of the main things it embodies or conveys to people.
Exactly.
Right? Is that self-sacrifice, that giving, that self. Obviously that can be misconstrued in many different ways, but there was something else too. You made me think of. I don't know. Come back to me.
And in that sense, going back to the religious religion part of it, that's other thing that you and I discussed a lot in the past, because, you know, even though I might not believe, you know, I've always I think I've always understood the purpose that religion and spirituality, you know, the role that those things play in people's life, and the importance. So even though I might not feel, even though I might not feel that way about something, if I see that is something that you need in your life and it's good for you, I'll never want to be the guy that wants to talk you out of that. Because I feel that I understand what's good for me and what makes me happy. And I also can appreciate that other people's come to that sense of wholeness or, you know, fulfillment from a different approach. And I just want people to feel that way. Right. And in whichever way it works.
It's a different vehicle.
Yeah, so I would never want to be the guy to say, "Oh, I'm right and you're wrong, and I'm going to prove to you why you're wrong." I think that's a silly game that people sometimes, you know, want to engage just to make others feel that they're more intelligent or that they know more or that whatever.
And on both sides.
And and it's just it never. Nothing positive comes out of that, you know. And I think one of the reasons why you and I have always had this incredible an open relationship is because we've always been able to talk about things, and we always had a great mutual understanding of where we stand, and a very respectful way to, you know, to kind of at least listen to each other. And, you know, and even though we sometimes don't see things the exact same way, you know, there's that mutual respect of being happy for the fact that, you know, that what works for me makes me happy and complete. And, you know, and I think that you know, makes you happy for me, you know, even and vice versa.
Well, it's part of, and this is where I risk, you know, going down a rabbit trail where we go down another, you know, and so I'll try not to get too far into it, but I just keep hearing this theme pop up. It's also, and I don't, in a way, it's sort of I don't mean this to be an advertisement for the Episcopal Church, but that, a lot of things you're telling me really comes from growing up in that particular church culture, which unfortunately, so many people, because of what's portrayed in media and the people that folks interact with in their day-to-day lives, particularly in the Bible Belt, that's not the type of, at least Christianity, that people run into. Yeah. It is so much about forcing you to adhere to certain beliefs that someone has, submitting to this way so that you can get some golden ticket in the sky in this yellow brick road place, you know, we call heaven, right? Whereas really, if we were having a separate episode and we talk a lot about this, like, I would argue, as someone who I think knows quite a lot about scripture and about actually many religions, not just Christianity, that's actually up for debate. I don't know that Jesus himself was really talking about all that stuff. You know, and so it just I just have to name it because, again, that is part of the inspiration for me for even doing these shows, because it's like I want to rail against what I see being portrayed out there. Yeah. Because I think it's so false and so off, and really what we're talking about is what I think.
That was one of the things when I came to this area that kind of, you know, was really striking to me, you know, that it wasn't even good enough that you went to church, but some people were like, "Oh no, you got to come to my church.
Go to the right one."
Yes, like, you know, it's not enough that you go to church. You got to go to the right church.
That's right. That's right.
Happens to be mine.
Right, because these idiots messed up. They go to church, but they got it all wrong. Yeah.
And, you know, you go like, okay, you know, maybe you need to chill just a little bit, you know. And yes, you're right. I mean, you and I had a lot of conversations about that. And yes, it's true. It's just, I guess it's just finding what works for you, you know.
So would you, so the other piece of that, and again, maybe the last thing I'll try on that end, but like, so would you call yourself atheist or would you call yourself agnostic?
I think I'm atheist. Yes, I don't think.
And you understand the difference between those two terms.
Well, I think agnostic is more like someone that's still kind of open.
Well, it's just I don't know.
I don't know, and I'm open to the possibility. Right. I don't think I'm there.
Okay.
I think I'm.
So it's I believe there is no intelligent creation or no life force.
Exactly.
Okay.
Like I think I'm 100% there. I have been there for a long time. and and I'm not saying these, in a prideful way,
No,
but
sure.
it's truly where I honestly feel that I'm at, and I think trying to pass it for any other thing, it would be not being honest and not being true to myself.
Yeah.
So I think agnostic is not the right term, and yeah, 100%.
Yeah. Okay. So, yeah, we could go so down that trail.
And we have in the past.
I just yeah. I mean, yeah. Anyway, we'll leave that.
Maybe that'll be a separate chapter.
Yeah. Well, I just love the conversation around like.
Yeah, if people find this one interesting, maybe we'll go for a 2.0.
Yeah, I just love the conversation around like, I'll say it's crazy to believe that there's some sort of force or purpose or intent in the universe, which would be faith. Mm-hmm. But I think it's equally insane to believe there's not.
Yes.
It takes just as much faith, I would say.
Yeah, it takes.
I mean, there's just, like all the complexities of the universe, like that it's all just to me, they're both insane.
Yeah.
So it's like, so anyway, so I sort of almost feel like really everyone's agnostic. It's just like, we don't know, to say and this is not a conversation to you. I'm having an imaginary conversation right now with most people of faith.
Yeah.
To say I know, like I feel like people, when they say I believe, what they're really saying is I know, which is BS.
Yes.
You don't know. So in a sense, we're all agnostic. It's just, what do we lean towards, Because you can't know.
Yeah.
And so to me, faith is actually like wrestling, fighting with, struggling with these questions. That's faith. It's not... When you say you believe something, doesn't mean you know it. I feel like, I don't know if you've experienced that, but I feel like people, in particular in this area, when they say believe, what they really mean is I know this.
Yeah.
Which is complete bullshit,
Yes, I dissected the Bible so many times.
Yes, I know it.
I go to Bible study.
No, you don't. You believe it.
So I guess, okay, you're an expert in the Bible.
Yeah.
But that doesn't mean that. But at the same time, it's like, if they feel that there's enough in there to make them 100% believe in something, who am I?
Oh, sure.
To tell them,
well, right,
you're wrong or you shouldn't. I think if you find, solace and happiness or content in those words, and you take them with absolute certainty, then that's their truth. That's their, But I agree with you that faith has a component where, faith has a component where, you have to believe. At some point, there's some things...
Well, it's not certainty. My point is
there's
it's
no
not
explanation, and the only thing that you can do at that point is like, you have to believe. Either you don't believe in this, or you have to believe in it.
Right.
And if you do, then...
Which is funny, because back to that question of like, creator or no creator, either way you're actually believing
in something,
both ways.
Yes,
either way you're believing something, because we don't know.
Yes.
So what I believe
I believe in, is in the fact that we haven't found the answer yet. Let's say if you go 200 years ago, there's a lot of things that were ascribed to being acts of God and stuff, and now through science we know exactly how things happen. How volcano works, or hurricanes, or weather and storms and this and that. So there are a lot of things that in the past you had no choice but to find some sort of religious, it was something that people probably found so much wonderment. About the magnitude of these things, and it made them feel so small.
Right.
The force and whatever, and sometimes there was no explanation, and you had to ascribe it to something, and it was a superior force.
Wait, we did a rain dance, and it rained, right?
So and then you fast forward 200 years, and now we know exactly how those things come to happen, and then it's not a religious event anymore. It's really more of something explained by science.
Except for how matter is created. Or
exactly. Yes. No. 100%.
Right.
And that's the thing. It's like the way that I see it is okay. We still haven't figured out. We haven't found out.
Right.
How that came to happen.
Right. So we don't know.
And even if we keep delving, I mean, eventually we're going to get to the position, okay, was the egg or the chicken?
Exactly.
You know, I mean, and you still don't know.
Right.
And I know there's just, it's a crazy topic, you know, to even somehow try to wrap your head around it. But the second thing about that is even if that is just, I don't know if if it's an accident or we can truly say it all happened because of a rational force, you know, and again, you know, but I'm not that we could get into such a big.
We're doing the thing that I said.
Yes, we wouldn't do. You know, but I'm not trying to convince anybody about anything else. But I think it's just, you know, kind of how I kind of see it. And you know me, I'm a person that tends to. I want to rationalize everything.
Yeah.
I need to.
Well,
I need to analyze and you know and rationalize a lot. So it's just.
See, I would still call that agnostic. The fact that you say we don't know.
Yeah,
is open. We don't know.
Well, but that
because most people who call themselves atheist,
yes,
they say they know.
Well,
they know that.
I guess a true person that calls himself atheist and they want to go on this crusade to prove that God doesn't exist and all that stuff. They're just as crazy fanatics as the crazy church person that wants you to go to their church and they want to force their belief on you, and it's just two extremes of, you know, kind of like two opposites of a belief system that is still rooted in some sort of extreme notions.
Exactly. That's why I would say that.
Yeah.
So
So
it's cool, Ali. You're agnostic, buddy.
Okay. If you want to label me agnostic, I mean, it's your podcast. I'll let you do whatever you want. So
I actually had this, man, and I think I've told this story before, but I wish, man, and this is before the time of Facebook or any of that, and I've even called Appalachian State to try to find record of this professor, but I had this beautiful relationship, like one of the most impactful relationships I've ever had with somebody in terms of my faith. He was my philosophy professor at App State. And this was when I was it was right before I realized I felt called to ministry. And and he just would sit. So I was going through all these big questions. Yes. Like, do I believe in anything? Like, what, you know, trying to just really dig down into all of it. And man, this professor would spend 3 hours with me, like after class, just going into all of it, you know, playing devil's advocate, just, you know, really exploring. And my point was just, he considered himself, and I love this term, he considered himself a soft atheist, he said. Yeah. And that was, I just love, it just ties in.
And that's maybe what I am, because, you know, I think you've known me now for many, many years, and you've seen me. I have never even tried to change anybody's mind.
No, of course.
Like you know, I find I have and actually it's funny because most of my closest friends are very, very religious people, you know, and for some reason they all still want to be friends with me.
Well, but I think it's to that point. I think it's to your point of it's not, you're not some
crazy
proselytizing atheist,
yes.
You know, and I think that, and again, back to like my church culture is, you know, all things are welcome and open. Yeah. So it's not, some people are offended by even the question, right? Mm-hmm. I embrace the questions. I love the questions. So it's really not that different. I have my own questions. Yeah. I have my own doubts, you know, and that's okay.
And I'm the kind of guy, like, you know, I mean, when I have friends that I know that they're very, they have a deep faith and, you know, they believe strongly in saying, so let's say, if I have friends that I know they like to bless the table before they eat, when I invite friends to my house, I mean, I don't do that, but I invite them to do that in my house because I don't feel that it puts me, I mean, it doesn't damage me anyway. It's not offensive to me. Right. I know it's important to them, so why not be respectful? Why not give them a chance? I know they do this every time before they eat. Yeah. Why not let them do that just because it's my... I think it's just selfish.
What is that in the end?
Exactly.
It's having gratitude for the things we have
and I'm
in life.
grateful for their friendship, and I know this is important to them, so I want to be respectful of that. So, even when they come to my house, I know that if it's important to them, I invite them to say grace at the table before we eat, because I don't do it, but I know they do. So why not? I mean, it's like we talk about tolerance and grace and extending mercy and respect, and then, I mean, a lot of people just completely, they seem to be oblivious to that. That is one of the most basic things you can do, to love and respect other people and their most.
And this, exactly, right? And to me, like, that's really all Jesus was talking about.
Yeah.
Really? Yeah. I mean, but people get so obsessed with this, like, idea of where a soul goes after, which is really, Jesus hardly even talked about.
No.
He talked about everything you just named.
Yes.
Yes. So it's like, what are we, it brings to mind, I mean, like, you could take blessing a meal or most things that are quote unquote Christian, and really those are outside, like, people lump that in a category of like you're praying to a deity or it's somehow spiritual, but it's really just, again, I'm grateful for the fact I have a friend, that I have food, that I have, it's
so
a very earthy thing.
Yeah.
It's not.
I don't look at it as, okay, they're saying thanks, or, to a higher power, and maybe I don't believe in the higher power, but I do believe in the gratitude of having my friends in my house and this moment, and having food on the table, and everybody around this table being healthy, and I'm
present.
I'm just grateful for that moment. So there's nothing wrong with even expressing that, even if I don't personally express it to maybe God. I think it's great to be able to express that gratitude and that appreciation.
Well, and take like as a Catholic or Episcopalian, right? Like, the Eucharist, this thing has been but that was just Jesus at a meal, with his friends,
exactly,
saying, "Remember this moment. Remember this, right? This is.
We're sharing. They have Instagram,
right?
You have to remember,
right. We're sharing sustenance.
Yes.
And this moment is holy.
Yes.
That is holy, right? Mm-hmm. So it's back to you. It's back to your. It's really full circle back to your point of like birth of child, death of father, right? Like these most natural of events that happen every single moment of every single day. Are holy.
Yes.
Somehow.
Yes.
Right? Sacred.
Yeah, because it's crazy, because you think about it and it happens all the time, every single day, millions of time, but to you as an individual being, those are your sacred moments. I mean, even though it's the most mundane of thing, because it happens, people are born and people die every day in incredibly large numbers, but it's just about what that moment means to you, your life.
And I think there's a powerful thing there too that could be talked about of like perspective or perception or intentionality that we sort of talked about this already. Like, I've seen people, you can go through, if you're not committed to being honest with yourself and honest and open with others and being present in the moment. I've seen it many times. You can go through a birth of a child or a death of a parent and it not be holy.
Yes.
And so it's and conversely, you and me going out and having a beer at a Mexican restaurant or whatever the heck we're doing can be extremely holy or not.
Exactly.
Right? And it's all about that intentionality and that presence.
Well, because it fills you up, because you are living in that moment and you're not just trying to act. You're not acting out. You're not in this play that is all about how does this benefit me for the future, right? It's all about, how does this feel right here, right now?
Yeah, just being in the moment versus a facade or a
instead
mask
of being like acting, and that's one of the reasons why I took like a big step away from social media, because I feel, and you see these, to me, and I don't know if we're going way off tangent, but I mean, it's just, to me, one of the moments that was kind of like crazy, is in 2016, we went to France for my wife's 40th birthday, and we went to Louvre, and we finally get to the Mona Lisa, right? And we're in front of this Leonardo da Vinci masterpiece, and I realized there's this room full of people there. They're all there for the Mona Lisa, but none of them are actually
taking in the moment.
Facing the Mona Lisa. They're all giving their backs to the Mona Lisa, and they're all taking selfies. Like, this is me in front of the Mona Lisa, but
so
not a
horrible.
single one of them were even standing there in awe about the fact that they were looking at this masterpiece in person. Not one of them. Everybody was giving their backs to the thing that they were there to see, just because they wanted to
remember.
They don't even remember. They wanted their friends to see that they were there. So it was more of a. They were more concerned with that being an Instagrammable moment than an actual experience for them.
I know, man.
And
it's
that
gross.
And that made me realize that there's so many things wrong, because we live in such a crazy times where a lot of the people happiness today depend on a like button from someone else, even like buttons from people that they don't know or people they don't even care about, but somehow they feel that they need that approval.
Yeah.
And it twists so many perspectives in so weird ways.
And then to make it even weirder is they'll do that with religion and spirituality itself.
Exactly.
Right, the complete antithesis.
Yes.
So
now it's like, I like to travel. I don't ever post pictures of my travels on social media. I don't need people to validate or to, and I don't need to get in this.
You don't want to contribute to that either.
Yes, I don't want to get into this rat race of trying to prove to people my life is cooler than them. Everybody has a perfect life on social media. Everybody's life is perfect. You go like, oh my God, nobody has a bad day on social media. Everybody's perfect, and it's like. And when you start looking at that, truly delving into into that, you realize it's all so surface and there's no depth. But then that is why I feel spirituality, in particularly now, it's a complicated thing, because everybody's so connected with instant gratification on superficial, stupid things that don't have any meaning, that they forget that there are things that are probably worth actually, putting all that aside and just living in the moment. They're more worried about, what my friends are going to think about this, instead of how am I feeling about being here right now. Yeah,
and that's the thing. I, as a priest, I bang my head up against all the time. Is like what you just named is like, that's what I'm fighting against. Like, just how do I bring people into that presence, in that moment, and that consciousness.
That could be a whole other episode.
Yeah, I know. We have a couple of those already. Okay, so let me. And one other thing I wanted to say, and then I want to steer us back another way. But to cap off sort of this conversation we're having, just about what I said we wouldn't do, is like, talking about the big questions. But I think a lot of that, the conflict that we've named in several different ways between these mindsets of like theism or atheism, I think actually is a conflict. It's semantics, I think, and it's around definition of like God, for lack of a better word. So it's like, so there's a classic story of someone, some famous theologian, I don't know, sitting on a plane, and the guy asks him, what do you do? And he, I'm a theologian, and the guy's like, oh shit, like doesn't want to talk to him, and whatever. They end up getting in a conversation, and the guy's saying like, I don't believe any of this stuff, and the theologian says, well, tell me more about the God you don't believe in. And so the guy starts naming all the things he thinks stupid about religion that he doesn't believe in, and the theologian's like, I agree with everything you just said. Yeah. Right. And so the point being, again, I think a lot of it is what people think or assume is other people's definition of God, right? Because so much of it is like, oh, there's a dude with a beard in the sky that, you know, and that's just not completely accurate for all people. So anyway, I think to cap up that conversation, I think that's actually why we can have a lot of the conversations we have, is because we realize like those definitions are fluid, and it's actually not that different,
Well, because I think to a degree, it's like the same people that are so deeply rooted in their belief in God and stuff like that will almost be quick to dismiss maybe, someone that believes in Judaism or Islamic, I mean, so just because all of a sudden, okay, they believe in God.
Right.
It's just a different
It's
God
different
than
book, right?
or it's a different definition of God. It's probably the same concept.
Came at a different time to a different culture and a different language, so it can't be okay.
Yes.
Right.
So, but all of a sudden, it's like, no, my God is the right God.
Right.
And
it's tribalism.
yes, so it's kind of crazy because even in that sense, people that have a deep belief in God will question other people's God.
I know, it's nuts. And I keep saying last thing, but this really is last thing. The other thing that gets me really excited about some of the conversation we were having is like now, because you mentioned like science and everything, like something really weird's happening now where like the most advanced sort of, it's still fringe science, but like your quantum physics, your crazy, quirks and all this stuff. All of a sudden, that stuff is actually starting to, here's a hat
Go
tip,
full circle.
a hat tip to Hinduism.
Yes.
Some of the earliest writings we have. It's starting to corroborate stuff about the universe that the Hindus have been saying for thousands and thousands of years, which used to get put in the category of religion.
Yes.
But now they're going, wait a minute, these dudes. So anyway, that's super exciting to me. But,
I know.
Okay, I want to bring you back though to, as fun as all that stuff is. I think the there's so much beauty in meat, sustenance in the stuff that you named at the very beginning of just like, again, like walking into that chapel or that cathedral or childbirth or your father passing, like those are the experiential moments of life, right? That I say are undoubtedly spiritual. I mean, that's just however we define that. That's what I'm digging at, right? So you jumped from childhood to today, basically. And by the way, it's your dad's birthday, so let's say salud, man.
Salud.
That's a beautiful moment that we're sitting here talking about.
A year ago,
today.
I was spending his last birthday with him in Argentina.
Yeah.
So today's the first one that I don't get to be able to call him or see him or something. So it's bittersweet. But I sent a text to my mom. My mom, obviously, they've been together for almost 60 years, and they really had. I was very fortunate to grow in a family, as are you. I mean, with parents that truly love each other and that they really gave us an idea of what a marriage should be and how to honor your spouse and how to love and how to be able to have, even with the ups and downs, to truly have a happy life with someone that you love, And so my mom and my dad, they spent almost, I think, 60 years together. So, I mean, my mom is going through a lot.
Yeah, hard. Yeah.
But that's the one thing I ran with about my dad last night. It was I cried quite a bit on my dream, which I normally don't cry.
Yeah, tell me about your dream.
I can't remember. It was weird. I mean, it's like, there was this person like laying on a bed and it was completely covered, and then somehow when he sat down and I realized it was my dad and we started talking, it was just, I don't even remember what we were talking about. I just remember that it was so, I just was crying from just happy, man. I mean, because it was such a surprise that I wasn't expecting.
Yeah.
Just to see him and for him to be there and talking and just hanging out with him, and it was just emotional, and very powerful.
Super real and vivid.
Super real, yeah, super real, and and when I woke up this morning, I kind of sent a text, to my mom and my sister. I don't want to kind of, and it's in Spanish, but I'm going to quickly kind of, but I think that dream kind of inspired me to, because I knew that this was going to be a really hard day for my mom.
Yeah.
So I kind of said, it's in Spanish, but I said, today's not a day to be sad. It's a day to celebrate the life that he had, and what a privilege it was for all of us to have him in our lives.
Yeah. And
today's a day to remember him with happiness and love. Last night I dreamed about him, and it was very, emotional. Happy birthday, Dad.
Yeah. That's beautiful, man. Thanks for sharing that.
Yeah. So
Well, I'm yeah. Well,
I knew my mom was
thankful
going
that
to have a hard day today. I wanted her to focus on the gratitude of the life that they had, and
Of course.
not just
And
be so sad for him not being here, but try to celebrate the life and the blessing and the gift that it was to have that marriage and to spend all those years together, and
Sure.
you know, the family they had together. And I mean, it's just
Yeah,
you know,
yeah, of course,
I
man.
want her
That's
to
beautiful.
to,
That's
to
awesome.
at least take some sort of comfort in trying to focus, as hard as this day might be for her, to still try to make it about a celebration. If he was alive, we'll be celebrating.
Yeah,
And he's not here, but I still want us to feel like we should celebrate.
Remember and celebrate.
Yes,
Yeah,
yes.
of course, man. Yeah, that's beautiful that you did that, and I'm grateful. I only got to know him once or twice, but you know, I'm thankful for that, and I'm thankful I get to share a moment with you on this day. you
Yeah.
know, So
Yes.
Do you have dreams a lot or dreams of significance?
I normally don't remember a lot of my dreams. I'm a very sound sleeper, and I typically don't remember my dreams. But I would say, since my dad passed this last year, I have most of the dreams that I tend to remember are about him.
Okay.
Yes.
Yeah. So it's not the first one you had of your
No, it's not the first one I had. And
Were there any others of like significance that stick with you?
it's weird because, you know, they get blurry after a little while, but I think the significance on every single dream that I had with him is I never dreamt, you know, and people probably don't know, but I mean, he passed away from cancer, and it was terrible towards the end with the chemo and all that stuff, you know. But I never dreamt with him being sick. It's always like
He's whole.
this guy full of life. He was very, you knew him.
Yeah.
He was he was like a bull.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? He was so full of energy, and a guy that wanted to live his life, and that, you know, he built his own business. He was a self-made guy, full of, you know, vigor, and you know, and every time I dream about him,
What
that's
you're like.
yeah, I think I have a lot of him, and
Yeah.
but every time I dream about him, it's always him full of health and energy. He's never come into my dreams in a way where he's sick or anything,
right.
and it's just always shocking. Like, what's going on? I thought you were
Yeah,
sick,
yeah.
and, you know, wow, you're so good to see you. I mean, it's just always.
Does he say like, what does he say?
It's weird. I mean, it's he always deflected. You know, when even towards the end, he never really wanted to acknowledge. Even at the end, like, it was obvious that, and he kept talking like he was gonna get better. He was gonna beat it. You know, so he never. So I guess he's, in a way, he's always kind of dismissive, even in my dreams, about oh no, I mean, like,
I'm good. Yeah.
I mean, how is that? I mean, of course. I mean, it's me.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
so it's
That's funny though, because like a lot of people have these experiences with past loved ones, and even if they weren't like your dad in physical life, and they didn't deflect all the time, in the dreams, that's the message they get. I'm okay. I'm
yes,
good. You know?
yes.
That's a recurring.
He's always okay on the dreams. He's just
That's cool.
Yeah.
So to, you know, and I mean, we're probably getting to where we don't have much more, but I don't want to skip portions of your life. But as we go there, one thing that a recurring theme for me in these conversations, and I'm not trying to say this, you know, given all the conversations we had and your stances and your, you know, where you are, I'm not putting words in your mouth. So, you know, I know you don't get offended by these things, but I'm just stating, I don't mean this in this sort of way. But like, for me, in my experience with people in their spiritual journeys, I witness a lot of things, and I've learned over the years that what I call God speaks to different people in different ways. And so part of what I try to do is help people tune in to whatever that language is, right?
Yes.
And so I start to see sort of patterns. So for some people it's dreams. For some people it's gut feelings. For some people, it's coincidence. For some people, it's other people. For some people, it's nature. There's all these different categories.
Yes.
So it's just interesting because already in you, and forgive me, I'm not trying to like impose my things on you, but if I were to do that with you, I see, right, dreams and like, it's other people, but it's also like art and beauty. Like you have this pull and drive to that. It's a place that touches you.
Yes.
Right. That's like, it's the experiential stuff. It's walking into a cathedral. It's Mona Lisa. It's traveling to a beautiful place. It's these moments that are charged with
drinks.
Food.
Yes.
Well, I don't know. See, some of the meat you've cooked for me has been a spiritual experience.
Artistic creation, it's important. Like, I have a lot of original art in my house. I believe in buying art, and my wife is a pastry chef, and I believe in food as an art, as an expression of love, and more than just something you do to sustain your body, right? And that I'm okay with going and blowing stupid amount of money on a meal that I believe is more of an experience than just food. And yes, because there's that creation.
Creation is an expression of love.
Yes.
So that'll preach.
There you go.
Creation is an expression of love.
Yes. Did I say that? Okay. See, I'm talking and I'm not even really that conscious of what I'm saying, but it's kind of like, I believe in that, and to me, I also think, if you ask me what God means for me, this is going to sound arrogant because it sounds like going back to just rationalizing, but my concept of God is my conscience. Because I don't believe on, like most Catholics, they can sin and they go to church and they confess their sins and then they get a, blank canvas again. And since I don't believe in that, I have to live with the shit that I do, and I have to live with the consequences of that. I have to find peace in how I conducted myself and the decisions that I made and all of that. Yeah. The only place at the end of the day, when you go to bed at night and you're trying to fall asleep and you're thinking about what you've done and stuff, it's there. It's your head. It's your conscience, and whether you can fall asleep with yourself or not.
It's good.
And because I think if I am at peace with myself, with my conscience, then most likely I'm at peace also with a lot of people that I love. And then hopefully that will mean that I will be remembered in a way that I would like to be remembered when I'm not here anymore. And maybe that's my concept of transcendence or life after death. Is I don't believe in me living eternally, but I believe in me living in others. Yeah. In the memory that others have on me based on how I have impacted their lives. So,
yeah. There are religions based on that. Really, I mean,
how do you know?
I mean, Taoism, Confucianism, particularly like Asian, Japanese, Far East. They're based on that ancestry.
Yes.
Worship, yeah. But man. So that's we're delving into the other area again, but it's taught that everyone has a divine spark in them. Everyone is a divine spark of God, of whatever that is. So consciousness being God actually is not incongruent, right? And creation, therefore, creation, the universe, is an expression of love.
Absolutely.
Of whatever this God thing is.
Yes. Whatever definition, don't know. Yeah. Yes. Yeah. I do believe in that.
So, careful now. You're going to be a theist before we're done. So go back to wrap up. I just want to make sure we're not skipping. So because you went from like Salta, right, cathedral, to childbirth and father.
Yes.
So are there any other moments that stand out to you in your life that you would point to in the same way?
Yeah. I mean, I remember when I started questioning my beliefs, and it was weird. I went to a military high school, and you know, in Argentina back then, you know, the military and the Catholic Church had a very deep, intertwined relationship.
Oh, interesting.
And so, you know, even in military high school, there was a lot of really, you know, church and stuff like that. And I remember, I don't know, I mean, there's something about, it just felt to me almost, I don't know, I don't want to say hypocritical, but it felt like there was a duality of being in a military high school, being taught technically concepts of how to go to work and take life, and then also, you know, love of Jesus. And
take life for our God, because our God loves us.
Yes. You know, and I don't know why, but it's just, I think that was the beginning of the end for me. And then for a long time I was on the fence, and then I went to a Catholic university, and you know, because it was a Catholic university, even though I was studying business, you have to take theology, and you know, I think that's part of the thing. It's like you said, it's a faith. You have to believe. There's some things that you cannot explain, but if you want to believe in God, you got to believe, and you got to believe in those unexplained mysteries. But when you pose a faith-based idea as a science, because they say that theology is the science of God, and I'm like, the science of God? I mean, it's you know what I'm saying? It's, so you're going to say that this is a science, but then when I tell you that, when I start questioning all the things that you cannot explain, then your answer to all those things is, oh, that's mystery of the faith.
Right, just accept it.
Yes, you just got to accept it and just shut up.
Yeah.
And, you know, and...
That's a tough pill to swallow.
Exactly. So I guess, in other words, it's almost like, I feel like going to a Catholic university and then forcing me to study theology is what truly pushed me over the edge of truly believing or feeling that there's just a lot of bullshit there.
Well, you're encountering a system that's...
Because I feel like if you were being just like, man, we don't know about this, but we're focused on the spirituality side of it. We want to fulfill, I mean, we'll believe that the message of Jesus was, you know, I mean, it just... Stay on that topic.
You could jive with that more.
Stay on that topic and stay on the topic of love. And But when you're trying to pose everything as, oh, this is a science, you know.
That's crazy.
You know, it's just weird. So
is that in Spanish? Is theology? Would they say ciencia?
La ciencia de Dios. Sí.
Because most people, like in English, you would say the study of.
Yes, but they
which is different.
Yeah, but they say that it's they literally said that it's a science
of God. Yeah.
And you go,
that's pretty loaded.
It is extremely loaded, you know. But then what didn't push me completely away from that, and that kept me open to the value system and stuff. There was, like, just like you said, there was this priest. He passed away now, but he was a little crazy. He kind of looked a little bit like the professor from Back to the Future. You know, Christopher Lloyd in Back to the Future. Okay, so he looked a little crazy, but he was actually and he was a little crazy, but he was great too. And he was one of those guys that you could truly have great conversations and fierce debates, and he embraced that instead of like, oh, you should shut up and believe, you know. And but he had a lot of conversations, and we had really rational conversations about how sometimes people go overboard and taking the Bible and dissecting every word. And he was like, the Bible was more of an idea. It was more, you know, meant to be a guideline on how you should live your life for a time where people didn't know how to read, didn't have a lot of values. It was supposed to be more of a guideline than something that now people dissect word by word and take and try to find all these even more hidden meanings, you know. And
it wasn't black and white.
Yeah, so that guy, basically what he instilled in me was the notion to say, you might not believe in this, but there's a values system in the religion that does
there's a
fulfill
truth there.
and serve an important purpose in human life and in society. Because without it, there would be much probably separating us from animals, right? So values have an important, and that's so at the end of the day, even though I don't believe, I always believe in the function that a strong values system has.
It has a
in
purpose.
Human life.
Right.
Yes.
Right. Okay, but experiential moments in Ali's life, like Salta, like childbirth, like death of father, are there other ones that we missed? In childhood, middle school, high school, college. I mean, what? Do you have any other moments that you would point to?
No, I mean, to me, the probably the biggest moment outside of that I felt very lost and terrified was when we moved to the States. When just to come here and not knowing anybody and not having any money, and not even knowing where I was going to be living next week, and I really, I kind of felt at that point so alone and lost.
Vulnerable.
Yeah, vulnerable. And that was one of the few times in my life, outside of crying for happiness when I got married or when my kids were born, or crying from sadness like when my dad passed. That was the one time in my life that I broke down and cried because I was so lost. And so, so I guess it was a spiritual happy moment, but it was a spiritual moment in the sense of finding myself in this sense just lost, in a place that I didn't know.
It clicks back to what you said about, like, if you had any definition of God, it would be consciousness.
Yes.
That actually I hear that in what you're saying. Because you're pointing to these moments that brought you to the core of yourself.
Exactly.
Right?
Yeah.
Which is...
Like, dig extremely deep inside of me, But outside of that, really, like I said, I don't consider myself a super spiritual person, so... And I'm not very emotional, I'm a loving person, I love to. I'm very, I hug everybody and I love on everybody and stuff, but I don't consider myself emotional from the perspective of, I'm pretty steady, I think, in a way, so for things to really shake me to my core, it has to be, they're very...
It's really interesting.
Powerful moments, yes.
It's really interesting because
it's the really highs and the real lows,
Yes, but we're also saying two things in that you're a very solid person, as you just said. You're not. It takes a lot to break you down, whether happy or sad, to your just bare self, and yet those are the moments you point to as most significant or like quote unquote spiritual in your life, which is very fascinating.
The moments where I felt truly at my most vulnerable, either from a happiness point of view, because I was handed a child that I had no idea what to do with, it's like I'm not qualified to take this human being home, like somehow I made it work. But you feel not prepared for something like that, right? And I feel that it's just that, those moments where you truly feel vulnerable. And I think also, it's a lot of times, those are the moments where people turn to God because they feel so lost within themselves that they...
Either in happiness or sadness.
Yes, they just turn to the hope that there's someone out there that is really, because sometimes you need to feel that there's that safety net that is going to catch you, and... yeah,
man, oof. Yeah, that's good. I mean, we could go down a whole Carl Jung like that. I mean, really, like that's the heart of it all. Like consciousness, your shadow, your ego, and breaking down to your most vulnerable, open, honest place.
Yes.
And when life gets us there, it's like we finally get to that spark, we get to that soul, for lack of a better word.
Yeah.
It's like, yeah.
Absolutely.
That's good.
Yeah.
Nice. Does that feel like a place to stop? I feel like you got anything else you want to name?
You know me, we can keep going.
Oh, I know we can talk. I know.
I mean, I think we got to keep it contained to
like
probably stay on topic for today. So
Okay.
I feel I love this. It was, I mean,
Yeah,
I've never done it before. I'm not very versed on podcasts in general, but
You're just talking to a buddy, man.
Yeah, this just felt great. Just like every time we sit down and talk, it's just always a pleasure.
Yeah, man. Well, I'm honored to have you, and
It's mutual.
on this day, and you got nothing left.
Yeah, it's okay.
So, yeah. Love you, brother.
Love you too, man. Thank you so much for this. It was awesome.